Hello everyone and welcome back to Chess Programming Dame Design with me. Yep, Dame Design today. So in today's lesson, as I mentioned before, we are going to be working on actually doing the white en passant and perhaps piece change. But no, piece change is going to come later on because that's more complicated than you might think, as we want to put some graphical user interface for that as well, so like a panel, an extra panel that's going to pop up above our chessboard. We should be able to get through the king as well. So let's start with the en passant. Let's go with the white first. So just for troubleshooting purposes, what we can start off with is having a debug log to see whether this actually gets entered. Then inside of it, what we do is, well, we can do the let's just go into normal piece movement. Last piece moved equals current piece selection. I am actually going to extract this and put it here and actually delete it from here because it's going to make more sense later on. I don't want to get into that right now. So last piece moved, we're going to do that before we do everything. So now that we have this, so this is the way I've left the normal movement. I've deleted it from here. Let me just minimize that just so that it doesn't confuse us. So we've said that that's the last piece moved. That's all fine. So now what we do is, using our methods that we made here, without worrying what's inside of them, we do remove piece from. We're going to remove the piece that's behind the white pawn. We're going to see how we do that later. And then we are going to move piece 2. So move our pawn to where we want it to go. And then do end of turn stuff, i.e. the turn increasing and everything else. Look at the previous video to see what these methods do. I'm not going to go over them once again. So remove piece from. We want to remove the piece from current square selection, row -1. So what we can do is this dot all squares, and then pass it the square of current square selection dot end row -1, and the column is going to be just the same column. We remove that piece and move piece 2. We are going to be moving this is going to be moving the current piece selection to the current square selection. And I misspelled piece, of course. There we go. And that should be fine. Another modification actually I probably should have done to remove piece from beforehand is just make sure that I set the squares piece to null, because currently once we move a piece, wait, what? The piece in square. Oh, this is supposed to be that. So we pass the square. Once we remove the piece from the square, we never actually tell the square that we've removed the piece, so the square thinks that the piece is still there. So to make sure that the piece knows that we've removed the piece, the square knows that we've removed the piece, yes, we set the piece in square to null. And I think that everything should be fine now. Let's do a similar thing with the black en passant. So this is our black en passant. Now instead of a minus here, we're going to have a plus. Instead of white here, we're going to have black. And everything else is going to stay the same. So let's test it out. Let's see if it's going to give us an error or anything. Once it loads, there we go, it's loaded. There we go. And now move that to there. Black goes to there, takes that pawn. Now if you want to see whether that square still registers the piece as being there, you can go into you can click on the square, and you can look in this interface, piece and square none. That means that it's null. We can do the same with this pawn, with this square, and we can see that piece and square is a black pawn, which is correct. That's what we wanted to do. The pawn from here should also have been removed. That's also been removed to none. That's good. Let's see if the white en passant works. So move that to there. Good, it's removed the black pawn. So that's en passant done. And now we can move on to the castling. This is slightly more complicated than the en passant because, well, we need to move a few things more around. There are two pieces we need to move without removing anything. So the way I've done that is the following. First of all, like we've done over here, we tell it what's the last piece moved. Even though we don't exactly have to, but I want to change it just to make sure that everything is consistent. Then next I move the king to where we want to move it to, so to the special slot. Now depending on whether I move the king to the right or to the left, I have to make sure to move the correct castle. The correct rook. I can't move the right rook to the left or the left rook to the right. So to do that, I do some checking. I use an if and an else. So if it's 2, i.e. if the column is the left column, so the current square selection is the square I've selected. If its column is 2, then that means that it's to the left. Otherwise, it's going to be 7 if it's entered into the special moves else if statement. Then it's going to be to the right. So what you do is, using our move piece 2 method that we made in the last lesson, which makes everything much easier, I take the piece, as you can see, from these coordinates. I know that the castle is going to be for white at 0, 0, if it's on the left. For black, if it's on the left, it's going to be at 7, 0, because we're working in rows and then columns. And then I move it to, well, there. All squares in row, so to the same, on the same row, because we want to move it to the same row as current piece selection, because this is universal for both the black and the white king. So we use the same row, and we use the column to where we want to move it to. I.e. the one to the right or one to the left of where the king has been moved, as you can see here. And then we do end of turn stuff. It doesn't need any inputs, and there we go. Now we should also be able to castle. Let's just test it out. I'm going to test it out on both the white and the black, and on both left and right. Oops, okay, so the rook didn't actually move. Let's check where we've gone wrong. So it's nothing to do about what we've done today, it's about what we haven't done a few lessons ago, which is we never actually made castling a special move inside of the king. And that's not supposed to go there, it's supposed to go over here. There we go. Good. Now let's try that once again. Let's restart the game fully and move that. Oh, okay, there's an error there. That means we are going to need to do some fixing, but let's see if this works. Yeah, now it swaps their positions. Let's check the right side. Move that. I've practiced this a few times on where to move everything. Hopefully I don't mess it up. There we go. And it's clear. It moves those to the correct side. Good. So we are good to go now. I am going to look into what that error was, but that's going to be it for today's lesson. If you enjoyed watching it, then please give me a like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions in the please do post them in the comments down below. Other than that, thanks once again so much for watching, and goodbye.